Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on behalf of a unique partnership with Alaska Public Media. It is Saturday, March 11th, 2023. And if you'd like additional weather information on top of what I provide, you can go to weather.gov. That is the National Weather Service's online presence. It'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S. with Alaska and Hawaii to the lower left. And if you click anywhere on these maps, it'll pull up a forecast with any related watches, warnings, or advisories for anywhere in the country. A quick check of the map on this Saturday afternoon shows a winter storm system impacting the far north central portion of the continental U.S. with blizzard warnings in North Dakota and northwest corner of Minnesota. Further south, we have stronger winds coming across areas of West Texas, New Mexico, high wind warnings along with red flag warnings for elevated threat of fires. And then back to the west, still winter storm warnings for the Sierra Nevada mountains there of California. Flood warnings, watches back toward areas of the Central Valley. Here in Alaska, well, don't forget the time change coming up this Saturday night or early Sunday morning. Spring ahead 1 hour as we go from standard time to daylight saving time. That change officially happens at 2 a.m. So if you have your cell phone and you watch it at 2 a.m., you can see it jump ahead to 3 a.m. at that time. Also, we've seen an increase in earthquake activity on Tanaga Island in the western Aleutians. There are two volcanoes there, Tanaga and Takawanga volcanoes, that could signal potentially a precursor to an eruption. So we'll highlight more of that coming up here. But the upper level ridge in the mid and upper level portions of the atmosphere is beginning to break down after bringing a little milder weather to areas of the mainland here this past week. Colder air is going to return across much of the state in the week ahead and continue into next weekend. So don't look for any early spring warm-ups on the horizon. We have still yet to get to the equinox, which occurs on March 20th this year. And looking at a couple of the FAA webcams, in the west side of the state, Ambler, a little bit of light snow, some flurries there, not enough to dim the sun. The clouds are not especially thick, a temperature of 18 degrees. There is a cold front currently working its way through this area, not especially strong, but it is the first in a couple of cold fronts that are going to be bringing in colder air. Further south and east, Juneau has had windy conditions, especially Friday into Friday night. Winds gusted as high as 76 miles an hour along the docks there at the waterfront there in Juneau. But winds are going to continue to come down as high pressure over northwest Canada loses some of its strength, and low pressure that's sitting out along the lower Gulf, North Pacific, will also be drifting a little further southward. But otherwise, clear and breezy conditions there in the central and northern panhandle due to those outflow winds. Only advisories in effect at this time, couple of winter weather advisories for St. Lawrence Island, the west side of the Seward Peninsula, including areas around Wales down through Teller, Tin City. Could be little light accumulating snow with some blowing, little drifting snow, but nothing like the blizzard conditions of last weekend, and that will be in effect through 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. So looking way to the western Aleutians, west of Adak, we have Tanaga Island, and there are two volcanoes there that have seen increased earthquake activity past couple of weeks, and more notably in the last few days. So seismologists and people that watch and study volcanoes are real interested to see if that may be a precursor of an eruption. The Alaska Aviation Weather Unit of the National Weather Service, as well as the U.S. Geologic Survey and the Alaska Volcano Observatory, are keeping a close eye on this situation. Looking at the satellite imagery, we have the low pressure situated southwest of Haida Gwaii. There's high pressure over northwest Canada. Cold front coming in now to the northwest portion of the mainland through the Seward Peninsula, with it a band of clouds and little light snow, nothing terribly heavy. And as we go through the next couple of days, this area of low pressure will drift a little further southwestward. High pressure over northwest Canada will not be quite as strong. It's been as high as around 1050 millibars. That'll be falling off here as we go into early next week. And then this front is going to press further south and eastward, lose some of its punch, but it's the leading edge of some colder air. stronger secondary system will drop southeastern along the west side of the state as we go through Monday and Tuesday, and that's going to bring in the main shot of colder air that's going to be with us next week and into next weekend. So here comes the leading edge, the initial cold front, not especially strong, narrow band of some light snow showers. Low pressure southwest of Haida Gwaii is wrapped up, and then high pressure up over northwest Canada. This feature will drift southeastward and weaken a bit, but with it have a little cloud cover and some lower cloud cover along with a little light snow or light snow showers across areas of the interior overnight into early Sunday morning. And then as we go into Sunday afternoon, high pressure is expected to be not quite as strong over northwest Canada. That front washes out, but then here comes a pretty healthy shot of colder air that's going to bring stronger north flow along areas of the west coast through the Bering Strait down into the eastern Bering Sea that could lead to areas of significant freezing spray, along with another shot of some snow showers and just overall colder air being reinforced. So temperatures Sunday morning will be below freezing even in through the lower panhandle, back across areas of south central, the interior, 12 below up there at Glen Allen. Temperatures on Sunday will have to struggle to hit 30 in Anchorage, still upper 30s to near 40, Craig and Ketchikan. Sunday morning lows pretty chilly, generally in the teens in through the western Kenai, Anchorage Bowl, and then as we go into Monday afternoon, temperatures are going to have to struggle to get much out of the mid-20s for highs, with the exception of near the water and out there and through the southern panhandle. Colder air is returning. We'll see lows generally near or below zero along and north of the Yukon River. By Sunday afternoon readings, the colder air is pouring into the northwest and western side of the state, including the Seward Peninsula. By Monday morning, notice more widespread lows in the teens and 20s, maybe even an isolated 30-degree below reading there come Monday morning, and then daytime highs will generally only be in the single digits along the Yukon River and below zero, especially the spine of the Brooks Range north slope up along the Arctic coast. And areas of the southwest will see temperatures Sunday morning down in the teens, still above freezing. The Aleutians, lower portion of the Alaska Peninsula. Highs upper 30s, around 40, Dutch Harbor on up through areas like Chiknik. But then back to the north will start to cool down. Lows Monday morning as you creep up the Yukon and the Kuskokwim River basins. We expect lows to be near or below zero again, and daytime highs come Monday afternoon, generally only in the 10 to 15 degree range for the southwest interior. Quick check of looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook for March 16th through the 20th. Temperatures are expected to average below normal across much of the mainland, near normal in the panhandle, with the greatest likelihood of below normal temperatures over the southwest and Alaska Peninsula. And then precipitation may average a bit above normal from areas around upper Cook Inlet, Kenai on over in through the panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Here is your aviation weather if you have a flight planned Sunday into Monday. Frontal system will be working its way across the northern and central interior, in the process weakening, but colder air will begin to filter in behind this, especially through the northwestern portion of the state. IFR conditions extend also down through the Aleutian chain, and then we're going to have a secondary system that's going to pull down even colder air as that drops from the Chukchi Sea down through the Bering Strait along the southwest coast in across the Alaska Peninsula. By Tuesday, that will bring in the colder air for the bulk of this upcoming week that'll linger into next weekend. And Sunday afternoon, we'll still see a band of IFR conditions along this weakening front, or I should call it the lead front. And then Monday morning, some moisture there, still hung up areas of the Alaska Range, Tanana Valley on up toward the Elkan border. Here's the hint of that next system coming in from the north and west along the eastern Russia, and then in through the west coast. We expect IFR conditions as the next push of cold air that'll be accompanied by some light snow and then a colder northerly flow in the wake of this system as it presses southeastward down across the Alaska Peninsula on Tuesday. So Anaktuvik Pass for Sunday, we expect IFR conditions along that frontal boundary, giving way to VFR conditions. And same thing, Adigan Pass, IFR early in the day, giving way to VFR conditions. Further south and west, the tail end of that system starts out VFR, light cloud Clark and Merrill, then MVFR. Same thing, Rainy Pass on up through Windy Pass. We expect VFR conditions early Sunday, but then the northern end of the Alaska range bumping into IFR conditions by afternoon as that system is located just north and west. In the areas further east, Isabel Pass, VFR becoming MVFR, and finally Metasta Pass should be able to hold on to VFR conditions during the daytime on Sunday. Tanita Pass, look for VFR conditions, and further south and west, Portage Pass will also remain VFR, as will much of the Panhandle, including up there through the north end at Chilkoot and White Passes. Freezing levels aloft bump up along the Alaska Peninsula in through the Aleutians from 2 to 4 and 6,000 feet once you get back toward the eastern half of the Aleutians. Surface freezing line runs along the central Bering to near St. Paul, across the Alaska Peninsula along coastal areas of the Kenai and northern Gulf Coast, and then southwestern areas there, outer southwestern areas of the Panhandle. As far as icing potential, nothing too terribly widespread or considerable moderate, but we do have some isolated moderate icing possible along that frontal band in here through the northeast and central interior above 3,000 feet to above 4,000 feet down toward areas around the Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay. Also lingering rain snow showers associated with a low pressure well south of Haida Gwaii and off of Vancouver. Could see some icing above 3,000 feet, and then behind me here areas of the central western Aleutians above 4,000 feet. And looking at the upper level winds, 30,000 feet. We have a weak circulation in association with that low that's down toward the far lower Gulf and northeastern Pacific. 100-knot northwesterly wind max over the Alaska Peninsula. Here comes the next push of colder air. Jet core 130 knots. That's going to help pull down the colder air at the surface along the west side of the state. At 700 millibars, 9,000 feet, we can see that core of stronger winds associated with the next reinforcing trough. The initial trough extends here during the day on Sunday out across the northeastern and central interior, washing out, not especially strong, and then bringing it down to 3,000 feet. The ridge that was in place earlier in the weekend is folding over and weakening, allowing for this stronger trough to drop in out of eastern Russia, and that'll bring in the colder air along the west side of the state early in the week. So as we expect on Sunday, there could be some considerable moderate turbulence along areas of the Seward Peninsula, especially in through the west and partial western interior, surface to 4,000 feet. As north flow increases across this region, especially in the wake of the next system by Tuesday, it'll continue here along the west coast, so we do anticipate some brisker north winds. Also extending down into the lower portion of the Alaska Peninsula, surface to 4,000 feet, and then another area back out toward the central western Aleutians from surface to 3,000 feet. You can expect some considerable moderate turbulence, and then a broad area of isolated moderate turbulence along the Arctic coast, areas of the North Slope from the surface to 3,000 feet.
Dual polarization technology is a major upgrade to the current radar system. It allows forecasters a better idea of what's actually out there and can help keep you safe.
Current radar technology transmits and receives information in the horizontal direction, which is very limited. Dual polarization technology, in addition to the horizontal, transmits and receives vertical energy, which allows forecasters to get information about the size, shape, and phase of the precipitation. We can use that information to better determine the precipitation type to expect at your given location.
There you have it. This new technology is currently being installed in radars across the country and is already being used by National Weather Service forecasters to produce better, more accurate forecasts. Learn more here and follow us. Want to know about the future of weather radar? Well, the National Severe Storms Lab has it here with its new phased array radar. Let's check it out.
It's a non-moving radar. It has 4 faces of the antenna, each pointing in different directions. One of the big advantages is that we're seeing so far, it can sample the area around the radar in less than a minute, maybe even a half a minute. And this is 5-6 times faster than what they can do today.
NSSL is leading the development of future weather radar with this project. Learn more here and follow us. The Storm Prediction Center is one of the NOAA weather partners. They are located in the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma. Greg Carbon gives us a glimpse into what the SPC does.
Our mission is to analyze and forecast severe thunderstorms and the potential for tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds from those thunderstorms across the lower 48 states, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. One of the primary missions of the Storm Prediction Center is the issuance of severe thunderstorm and tornado watches across the country when conditions appear to be coming together to support the development of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes.
The world-class meteorologists in the Storm Prediction Center specialize in severe weather and keeping you safe. Learn more here and follow us.
The National Severe Storms Lab is working on increasing the lead time for severe weather warnings. The national average for tornado warnings is currently 13 minutes, but more notice would be helpful, especially for those in charge of moving large groups to shelter. Warn on Forecast will help forecasters issue hazardous weather warnings earlier. The project will give them more info about the chances of strong winds, large hail, and even tornadoes.
Currently, warnings are created by forecasters looking at the atmosphere outside, understanding its volatility, and then comparing that to how they see the Doppler radar presenting what's going on inside thunderstorms. Warn on Forecast is an idea where we're going to take the massive amounts of satellite, radar, and surface data and stick them all into a very high-resolution prediction model. And then by producing new forecasts every 15 or 20 minutes, the forecasters hopefully will be able to use that model to produce warnings that extend out to an hour.
Before the National Weather Service can use this tool, it must be developed and tested. One big challenge will be deciding how to get the model predictions to the forecasters.
I'm going to keep this one very low. I'm just adjusting the track.
These hazardous weather prediction models are going to produce a huge amount of output. And this fire hose of data is just too much for forecasters to handle in real time quickly. So in order to help deal with that, NSSL has developed a related project called Facets. And Facets is the methodology which will enable forecasters to focus very quickly on the most important threats.
Once Warn on Forecast and Facets are proven to be reliable and effective, then forecasters will be better able to inform you of threats nearby. Learn more here and follow us.
The Hazardous Weather Test Bed is located at the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma. It is used for experiments that will allow forecasters to learn and apply new technologies.
The Hazardous Weather Test Bed is a really unique space throughout all of NOAA. And this is where the researchers and the operational folks come together in a common space to solve operational problems and to test new research tools that the research community is working on. The goal is to accelerate the transfer from research to operations of the newest tools and techniques.
People come from around the world to collaborate on this unique project.
And we can bring together not only NOAA people, but also university people, faculty, researchers, private sector meteorologists, folks working in other countries in meteorology, forecasters can all come together and focus on what the problem of the day is with the forecasters.
Each spring, several experiments occur in the Hazardous Weather Test Bed. Learn more here and follow us.
What are you looking at? And what are you ignoring? Did you notice the NOAA logo in the corner? Forecasters have a lot of information in front of them too. Every second counts during severe weather, and decisions about where to focus are constantly being made. This could be even more challenging in the future. Phased array radar will produce 4 to 6 times more information than what we have now, which brings us to the question researchers are hoping to answer. Will more radar information affect forecasters' decisions?
From our past experiments, we've learned a lot about how forecasters think during the warning decision process, but we've also learned that those thought processes are very complex, and for that reason, we need a better way to be able to track forecasters' cognitive activity.
Inbounds and possibly golf ball sized hail.
An eye tracker is a piece of technology that is used to determine in real time where someone's eye gaze is located. And these eye trackers are typically video-based, which means a camera sits below a computer monitor, and with infrared light and vector analysis, we can determine where a person is looking and how their eyes are moving.
Eye tracking is already being used in the medical field and air traffic control. Using similar research methods, NSSL is discovering the benefit for weather forecasting too. Phased array radar will give forecasters a lot more to think about. Understanding their decision-making process will help researchers develop even more user-friendly tools. So what's the benefit for you? Even better weather warnings. To learn more, check us out online and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. It's now time to check out our marine weather. And just starting out with the sea ice edge, we have extensive ice throughout the north along the Arctic coast, Chukchi Sea coast, through the Bering Strait, Norton Sound. We're not anticipating any really strong winds to shift ice around too much. We're going to see, though, a stronger northerly flow of air develop along the west coast, especially through areas of the lower Bering Sea along the ice edge as we go into Sunday night, Monday, and Tuesday, as a reinforcing shot of colder air arrives. So this ice could push further southward early next week. And also with the stronger north-northwest winds across this region, there could be areas of heavy freezing spray. Across the inner channels, winds on Sunday, the outflow winds will not be quite as strong as what they've been, especially Friday, early Saturday. They'll come down a bit still, though, out of the east or north, 25 knots here. Middle, upper channels, waves around 5 feet. The outer coast and the nearshore waters within 15 nautical miles, winds will be out of the east-northeast, 25 to 30 knots. Waves anywhere from 6 to maybe 8 feet. And on Monday, winds will be out of the north here through the upper, middle, inner channels with waves of 4 feet. And for the outer coast, we expect 15 to 20 knot northeasterly offshore flow with waves running anywhere from 6 to as high as 9 feet there west of Gustavus and south of Yakutat. For the northwestern Gulf, variable lighter winds around 10 knots, Prince William Sound off of the Kenai, up in the upper portion of Cook Inlet. Otherwise, therefore, the entrance to Cook Inlet, winds will be out of the northwest, 15 to 20 knots, waves about 5 feet. Those winds will pick up there 30 to 35 knots from the northwest on Monday as you enter Cook Inlet. Only 10 knots out of the north there up toward Turnagain Arm, and then as we go across Prince William Sound, winds will be out of the northeast, 15 knots with waves a few feet. Across Kodiak Island on Sunday, winds will be generally west around 20 knots, picking up 25 to 30 knots as you extend out along the Alaska Peninsula. Waves right up near shore in the nearshore waters, 3-4 feet. On the north side, 4 feet or so north and northeast of Cold Bay. Winds will continue more briskly on Monday, and as a reinforcing shot of colder air arrives, we expect waves to be upwards around 8-9 feet near and south and just southwest there of Kodiak Island and east of Chiknik, and then 30-knot northwest winds could build waves as high as 10 to 13 feet, especially there north of Cold Bay on the Bering side. The eastern Aleutians will generally see winds out of the north-northeast around 25 knots on Sunday, 30 knots out of the northeast west of Adak. And then on Monday, winds continue more out of the north across the eastern Aleutians at 20 to 25 knots. Look for northeast winds 20 to 25 knots, especially west of AKwx. Waves will generally run 6 to 8 feet on the North Pacific side through the eastern and central Aleutians and 7 to 10 feet on the Bering side. Along the southwest coast, ice is in place, Norton Sound down along the YK deltas. Ice-free areas, you could see north winds upwards of 25, 30 knots with some heavy freezing spray. Waves 5-6 feet in where there is open water. And then on Monday, winds turn a little more northwesterly at 25 to 30 knots from St. Matthew down to St. Paul and St. George. And again, there could be some freezing spray with ice holding there along areas of the southwest coast and Norton Sound. Extensive ice across the north. Winds will generally be out of the west at 20 knots along the Arctic coast. And then extending down through the Chukchi, northwest winds 15 to 20 knots, turning northerly and accelerating south of Wales and on the north side of St. Lawrence Island to 25 knots. And then for Monday, winds continue out of the west along the Arctic coast, 15 to upwards of 25 knots, Kaptovik. But because we have a low-pressure secondary low dropping in from eastern Russia, ahead of it, winds could briefly be southerly. They're going to turn back around to the north, though, Monday night into Tuesday. That's going to bring in that second round of reinforcing cold air along the west side of the state. Here's the initial lead cold front late tonight, early Sunday morning. By Sunday, it pushes east, weakens, but then here's the hints of the next system coming in there along eastern Russia. That system drops quickly southeastward along the west side of the state, and that is going to bring brisk northwesterly flow along the west and southwest coast into the southeastern portion of the Bering, and that will reinforce colder air that'll be with much of the mainland here as we go through next week into next weekend.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.